Let us start this lecture with a thought process from novel laureate T.S. Eliot, who says, "Where there is no temple, there shall be no homes." This is quite a wonderful statement what he has given, and today we will be discussing about the temple architecture in ancient India. And if you look at in the last lecture, we basically discuss about how to make buildings such that we can have a comfortable stay inside, particularly when the temperature is shooting up due to the global warming. And you can also see some of this our work on ancient science and technology in this website, also general work about Awake Mother India, how to we can develop our country. And if you look at the temple, basically a word which is originates from the Latin templum. That means it is basically structure reserved for religious activities, but I have added spiritual. Spiritual and religious are not same. Spiritual is basically way of life, and it is more expandable than the religious in a very parochial sense, and where the prayer, sacrifices and rites are being performed. That is the way what Western people will be thinking in about the utility of the temple. But in Sanskrit we call it mandira, the house of worship. And even in our home we call it as a mandira, because our body is also known as temple in which the soul will be residing. So therefore, temple plays a very important part and parcel of Indian civilization. As I told that Indian civilization is quite old, and still it is living, still it is alive, although it's now at a very ruining state. And let us now look at temples in India. And temples in India were regarded as sacred places and with vital links that can connect finite men to the infinite God. This is a very profound statement. You can think that differentiates between a man and an animal, because man is unique in the animal kingdom as he is having the power to feel the infinitudes of the God, because he can be a God. And that is of course another concept which I don't want to dwell in, but it is very important so far the philosophy of Hindu is concerned. That is infinite, you can achieve the infinitude, and that has been basically communicated to the people who will be going to the temple for performing the pujas. The temples are built on the principles of Silpa Shastra, particularly little later on, maybe in the medieval period. And Silpa Shastra describes the temple as a symbolic miniature representation of the cosmos. If you look at the whole cosmos is nothing but an infinite domain. One cannot say that what is cosmos. So it is infinite, and man can achieve the infinitude in his own life, provided he performs certain kind of rituals and also attain this infinitude. When you will integrate with the whole cosmos, of course, one has to start with his own body, and then he has to move, have a relationship with the and part and parcel of family members. Then he has to be integrated with the entire society, and then of course expand his horizon of being a part and parcel of all living beings and also the non-living beings, because that is very important aspect a man can really do that, not the animal. And that our ancestors had realized, and they always exhort the people to attain that infinitude. And because what our scripture says, expansion is life, contraction is death. So today in the modern life, what we are doing, we are trying to getting narrowed to ourselves, our own interest, selfish interest, instead of expanding our horizon. And temple helps in expanding the horizon of the mind of a person. So, and it became a part and parcel of the cosmos. It is having a very great philosophical concepts which I don't want to dwell in, but please keep in mind this aspect also. A Tamil proverb says, don't live in a town where there is no temple. So look at this, is a very old proverb, and as if T.S. Eliot was aware of this. Even Sanskrit, there is a proverb that Gopura Darsanam Koti Punyam. That means by seeing a temple tower gives enormous blessings. Of course, the punya word is a difficult word to translate. I have put it as, but punya is having different connotation. So, it is also considered as the center of learning for general people. And if you look at, the temple is considered as the citadel of the Indian culture and traditions, because from this temple itself, the people were getting educated and also learning how to lead a life. All our culture and the traditions are being kept alive because of temple culture. Unfortunately, today it is not that, and as a result, we are facing the problem of the cultural invasion. Now, if we want to really fight the cultural invasion, we need to go back to the temple, and also a temple should not be a center of money or wealth generation, and earlier it was also a wealth generation, but those were being utilized for the welfare of the people. Unfortunately, today it is not the case. And a typical temple consists of following major elements, namely an entrance or often with a porch, and one or more attached or detached mandapas or the halls, the inner sanctum called the Garbhagriha, and in which basically the deities will be placed, and then tower built around this Garbhagriha, which is the main temple or main shrine. Let us look at an example of Muktesar temple in Odisha, which was built around 950 to 975 CE. And this is having a main temple here shown. This is the main temple. And which is having Sikara, and this is the Garbhagriha, and this is the pedestal on which the temple is built, and this is having Amalaka, which is a very nice structures, which is having a utility of giving the load basically, and also it looks good. And Kalasha is a part, and this is a emblem which is being used. This is meant for, which indicates the triad, and this corresponding to the Lord Shiva, and of course the flag will be there. And let us look at the types of temple as per the historical point of view. The type of temples one can really divide into three categories depending on the time. One is ancient temples, and other is medieval temples, and modern temple. Of course, the modern temple is a technology meeting of various traditions. In modern time, the people are following some of the ancient architecture, but the construction methodology is quite different. And here in this lecture, we will be discussing both very ancient temples, and then particularly we will be considering most of that examples I have taken from the medieval regions, medieval time. And so some of the modern temples are Lakshmi Narayan temple, which was built in Delhi in around 1938. ISKCON temple in New Delhi was built around 1998. Lotus temple was built in 1986 in New Delhi, and Birla Mandir, Jaipur, Rajasthan, and Akshardham in the Gandhinagar and in Gujarat was built in 1992. There is Akshardham also, Akshardham in New Delhi also. So these are the some of the famous temples I have just mentioned here, but there might be several of them. If you look at the number of temples in this country will be quite huge. And if you look at ancient temple, even that is also quite large numbers, although lot of temples were destroyed due to the invasion and due to the being ruled over by the foreigners and also of different faith, and they were just destroying the temples mercilessly. And in spite of that thing, today also we are having so many temples that it is quite enormous. Even I was told that something in the southern part of the country, more than 1 lakh temples are there, which are of ancient origin. Particularly, I mean ancient means not strict sense, it is not ancient, it is basically before the maybe 1200, 1300 CE. The temples were are there, and of course the northern side, some of the temples are quite old, which are still there and being utilized or being used by the people. And these are the very pilgrimage center for them. Lot of people go and tour them and see them and get a lot of enjoyment, and also they feel how it is, how they were being built. And some of them are declared as the World Heritage and by the UNESCO. Rather large number of them are in India, and some of them are Sun Temple in Konark in Odisha, the Khajuraho Temple in Madhya Pradesh, Ajanta Caves in Aurangabad, and Brihadiswar Temple in Tanjore in Tamil Nadu. Sanchi Stups are in Madhya Pradesh. These are basically World Heritage temples, which are declared by the UNESCO because of its uniqueness, because of its design, intricate design what we are having, and it is quite old also. It is a part of, they are the part of our Indian culture and tradition. So let us look at a basic principle of Indian temples. And the Hindu temple architecture has been evolved over 2000 years. It is not a new thing, right? It is evolved, but unfortunately this evolution has almost stopped, you can say that way. And today people are making temples, but they do not understand the basic principle of the temple architectures which were enshrined in our scriptures, because they do not aware about the scriptures and also its tenets, how to make a Hindu temple. And the evolution of Indian temples took place within rigid framework, Silpa Shastra and religious philosophy. And I feel that people do not know or aware about this, the philosophy and also the tenets of the Silpa Shastra about the Hindu temples, because these are not being a part of the engineering curriculum, and people always feel shy about it, and as if about the secular aspect of it, and then it's a really big problem, because one should not look from that point of view of narrowness, rather one has to look at the technology point of view, and it's also the utility point of view, and one has to look at how long this temples structures have survived over so many years, right? And I will be in the discussing about next lecture how and why they have survived so many years due to so many calamities, right? Even they have not been damaged by those calamities. So, as per the Hindu philosophy, temple can be considered a two-way portal between devotees and deity, because like you consecrated a basically any god, and that is a deity, and you should have a connection with that and interaction with that. So, that is a very important thing which can take place in a temple. Of course, it can take place in other places also, but that will give you a feel about it, and hence the architect had kept the basic tenets in mind which remain unaltered over a long period of time, and people were educated enough, but unfortunately we have severe the traditional education which was going on for years together due to the wrong methodology of education, and also the modern education has taken a various aspect which is not related to the life, and temple is a part and parcel of our life in India, and because we are spiritual in nature, it's not that we are alone spiritual in nature. Like I always feel spirituality is a backbone of human life. So, therefore, it is very important to look at those aspects. However, the temple sculptures and artists were having enough freedom in ornamentation, decoration of the temple, and also changing the design. It is not that they will be strictly following the rules, regulation laid down in the Silpa Shastras, but they do really innovate themselves and also change the design and structure of the temples, which if you will look at minutely, then you will find there had been lot of changes, lot of occurred in the past. Over period of time, distinct styles of temple construction were developed in northern India and southern India, influenced by geographical, climatic, ethnic, racial, historical and linguistic differences, because there is a lot of differences. Always we feel that India is a country where the diversities are enormous. In spite of so much of diversities, we are always united through the philosophy of life. So, that is the great thing which the Hindu philosophy talks about it, which is can encompass all the religions of the world. So, that is the thing which is being depicted in the temple. And let us look at brief historical development of Hindu temples. I will not get into the detailed discussion on this. I will just try to touch upon the basic things, and we will be looking at some of the historical and scriptures which are available and try to correlate those things. If you look at some of ancient Indian scriptures, have mentioned about the idols, temples, shrines in Indian subcontinent for thousands of years, right, which is existing. These idols, temples and shrines were existing in Indian subcontinent for thousands of years. And when you look at some of the texts which already we have discussed, for example, Ashtadhyayi by Panini, in which it has been mentioned about images or ideals, namely Agni, Indra, Varuna, Rudra, Surya and some others, like which are basically male gods. Similarly, the goddesses names which are mentioned in this text are Indrani, Varunai, Usha, Bhavani, Prithvi, etc., several of them. So, if you look at from that point of view, that in our scriptures and also part of life, always God and goddesses are a part of parcel of our life. We do not have any discrimination for female. Discrimination against the female is a new phenomenon. If we will see that, we will be hardly any place where the goddesses won't be there, because both are important. Male and female are the two sides of the coin, and which are being part and parcel of Indian idols, right. worshipping, like we worship both the male and female god, right? That means god and goddesses, we do worship both god and goddesses. That is the very beauty of our system. And if you look at Kautilya's Arthashastra, in which it has been described a city of temple, each enshrining various Vedic and Puranic deities. Of course, some of them like Agni, Indra, Varunas, and similarly Usha and Varunani, these are all Vedic god and goddesses. Similarly, Rama, Keshava and others are Puranic gods, right. Like when you look at the text of Mahabhashya by Patanjali, which was written around 200 BC, it has been described in this text temples of Dhanapati, Rama, Keshava, Shiva, right. In this text, the worship included dance, music and extensive rituals. If you look at the culture, it was a dance and music was a part and parcel of the temple culture which was prevailing earlier. People have found out an ideal in Mathura in North India, which has been dated to 200 BC. And of course, all these sources, whatever I have discussed right now, all three of these sources have common names, describe common rituals, symbolism, significant possibility, suggesting that the idea of idols, temple and shrines goes back to at least 400 BC. And as per the scholar, the very ancient temples were built of brick and wood, and later on people might have started using stone for construction of temples. As the material of construction of temples were not really tenable, and therefore that most of the ancient temple structures have not survived. But however, once they started making in the stones, and those stone temples have survived for ages together, for years together. And as to Michel Meister, the 5 basic shrine designs and combination might be evolved around 1000 BC, a raised platform with or without a symbol, a raised platform under an umbrella, a raised platform under a tree, or a raised platform enclosed with a railing, a raised platform inside the pillared pavilion. This is what he has really conjectured, that this might be the process by which the temple structure might have evolved over the years, particularly maybe before the common era. So, types of temple as per the architectural style and technology, if you look at this classification, is known as Nagar or the North Indian temple style. And North Indian temple type generally being located between the Himalayas and Vindhyas in earlier time. This temple looks like that. And if you look at, this is the actual picture I have shown here. This temple is basically is considered to be the Nagara temple style. And the Dravida or the South Indian style, where is shown here, and is a Brihadeswara temple, which we will be touching up and discussing, and this is generally located between the Krishna and Kaveri rivers. And later on, the Besara type or the hybrid, it is a mixture or fusion between the Nagara and the Dravida type, which are located between the Vindhyas and Krishnas. And this temple, as a Shiva temple, is Baijnath in Himachal Pradesh, is shown there, is shown here. And Nagara type is, it is believed to be originated from the structural temples of Gupta period, and Dasavata temple of Deoghar or the brick temple of Bhitargaon. The Nagara temple style was popular in northern India, as I mentioned earlier. A square temple with a number of graduated projection, basically which is known as Rathakas are being built, and Sikhara or the tower gradually curved inwards. This is curved inwards and capped by the spheroid slab with reefs around the edges, that is your amalak, which is there, is known as the lodestone also, that helps in providing the load. And prominent features of the Sikharas are spiral roof. This is a spiral roof which is being provided, and generally the Garbhagriha in which the main deity resides. And beside this there will be mandapas, which is the pillared hall, and there will be ardha mandapas, which is may be there or may not be there in the as a part of Nagar style, but definitely there will be mandapa we have seen. And let us look at another examples where you can see that this is the platform, the raised platform, the Jagati, which is known as, and this is the Pradakshina Path. Here the people will be moving around the temple, and this is the Garbhagriha, and there is a Antarala where the devotees can see the god, and the Mahamandapa, and there is a Mandapa. This is the pillared, these are the pillars, pillared hall, and Ardha Mandapa, and this is the Sikhara. Of course, the Amalaka is here in this portion, and there is a Kalasha. Kalasha is a very important aspect of the temple, although some of the temples may not be having, but it represents the cosmos, inside that entire, it represents the entire cosmos. And Rekha Prasada, this is a simple Sikhara, is square at the base and curves inward to a point of the top, like that. It will be square here, but it will be going up and in a curved, and this is mainly used for housing the Garbhagriha. And Phamashana, that is a building, is a broader and shorter than Rekha buildings. Its roof is composed of several slabs that gently rise to the single point over the center of building, where the Rekha towers rises sharply. And this we will be discussing. This is also known as Pida temple, because these are tires which will be there, which will be being built of like a inverted staircase, which I will show you. I will discuss it little later on. And in many North Indian temples, the Fashana was used for the mandapa, a rekha for Garbhagriha. And Nagara temple style has two distinct features. One is planning and other elevations. And the plan is a square with a number of gradual projection in the middle of each side that forms a cruciform shape. A ratha is a vertical offset projection on the plan of sanctum, and Sikhara above which is generally carried up from the bottom of the temple to the superstructure. And that is known as ratha. One can divide this temple of various types. Ratha is basically projection, and there will be 3 ratha temple, Pancha ratha temple and Sapta ratha temples. In 3 ratha, basically there will be 2 projection will be there, like 1 and 2, right, will be projection, and Pancharatha there will be 3 projections. Like if you look at this side is 1 projection, this is a 3 ratha, and in Pancharatha, this is the temple of, this is a 1 projection here, and this is another projection, this is second, and this similarly this is also 3rd projections, like is there. So therefore, and this is known as Parshuram temple in Bhubaneswar. It is the 3 ratha kind of temple, and this is a Pancharatha table, like this will be 1 projection, there are 2 projection, and this will be 3 projections. So therefore, this is known as Pancharatha projections, and this projection can occur throughout the height of the structure. and the example is basically Lingaraj temple in Bhubaneswar. This will be 1, 2, 3, like kind of projection is there. So therefore, this is known as Pancharatha. Of course, there will be Saptaratha projection, and Navaratha will be basically 5 projection. And in the elevation, it looks like a tower known as a Sikhara, as it gradually inclined upwards along a convex curve. Like if you look at these curves, you can see from here. And it is also known as Rekha Deula, or a temple. Deula means temple in Odia. And this type of temple has 2 structures, namely talar main temple and satar mandapas, which I have already discussed. And in the main shrine, a bell-shaped structure adds to the height. Of course, this kind of Nagara temple will be having Garbhagriha, Jagamona, Nattamandira and Bhogamandira. We will see that. If you look at this is a Lingaraj temple of Odisha, built around 617 to 657 C by the ruler Jajati Keshari in 7th century, and the height of main temple is about 54 meters, this temple. And so various parts if you look at is a Garbhagriha, and this is Jagamona assembly hall, and the Natamandira festival land, and Bhogamandira offering hall. So this is a part of basically Nagara style of temple. Let us look at the Dravidian or the South Indian temple styles. It is found in southern Indian states of Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala and Karnataka. And of course, for building this kind of temples, there are various kingdoms or empires have contributed, and some of them are Pallavas, Cholas, Pandyas, Chera, Chalukyas, Rashtrakutas, Hoysalas, Vijayanagar, and others also have made substantial contribution to the evolution of Dravidian architecture through the ages. This I have just shown you the a Gopuram. Gopuram means basically entrance temple, which is looks to be quite different than the Nagar style. It is having a various stairs, like various floors is having. If you look at this, 1 floor, 2nd floor, 3rd floor, 5th floor, 4th floor, 5th floor, 6th floor, like that it goes on. It's a very pyramid kind of structures which is having. And so let us look at Dravidian temple, like I am Dravida Indian temple styles, and I have taken the example of Tiruvannamalai temple, which was built in around 900th century, and it is located on the foothills of Annamalai hills, is dedicated to the deity Lord Shiva. And if you go to this temple, this is a very beautiful temple, and Nataraj is being worshipped in this temple. And this is basically the Annamalai hill, which is there. This is the hill. And temple complex covers 10 hectares, is one of the largest in India. And Dravida, the southern tile, as a pyramid shaped tower, as I have told, this is the shape is like a pyramid, consisting of progressively small storied of small pavilions and narrow throats, and a dome. In the end there will be a dome on the call known as Sikhara. And pyramid shaped temples is known as also colis, which are dependent on intricate carved stone in order to create a step design consisting of many statues of deities, warriors, kings and dancers. Particularly these temples are built in the medieval periods, where the Silpa Shastras really has been already been written. And as I told at that time, the temples were considered to be the citadel of the culture and tradition, also to protect their kingdom from the invasion. So they were trying to unite people also through this temple culture, and that was a great thing. That's why you will find some of the temples were having also moats and then very fortified walls. Tiruvannamalai temple houses 4 gateway towers known as Gopuram. These are the Gopurams, right? And the tallest is the eastern tower with 11 stories and a height of 66 meters, around 217 feet, making it one of the tallest temple towers in India. And as I told earlier, so this is a citadel of culture and also uniting the people. Therefore, lot of music and dance were also being developed in this center or in the temple itself. So, Dravidian style temples consist of almost invariably 4 parts arranged in different manner, but differing in themselves only according to the age which they are executed, because those are executed differently, but the main it contains all the thing. The principal part of the temple is called the Bimana, as in Nagara style. They call it Bimanam. It is a basically Sanskrit word, and it is always square in plan and mounted by the pyramidal roof, 1 or more stories. It contains the cell where the image of the god or his emblem is placed for the worship purposes, and porches are the mantapam. Basically, it is a mandapam. This pronounced is mantapam, which always cover and precede the door leading to the cell. And Gopuram, which is also known as gate pyramids, were the principal features in the quadrangular enclosures that surround the more notable temples, because as I told that people can enter from various region, 4 directions, so that generally 4 or more number of Gopurams are built around the fortified wall. And the pillared halls, which is known as solitaries or chaudis, are used for many purposes, are invariably accomplishment of these temples, and these are used for various purposes. Each temple complex will be having a lot of other things like water bodies and then trees, and it is really very sustainable in that sense that if something will happen, it can survive for few days at least of their own. So, that was a very important aspect which were kept in mind, particularly in southern part of the country. This is the famous temple in Madurai, which is known as Meenakshi temple. Some of you might have visited this temple, which is quite famous not only in India, across the globe. And this Meenakshi and Sundareshwar temple is basically located on the southern bank of the Vaigai river. And as I told earlier, it is one of the biggest temple in India. It was originally built by Pandya king Kulasekaran and rebuilt by Tirumalai Nayakar in 16th century. And this temple, let us look at an aerial view of the compound from the top of the southern Gopuram and looking north side. And the restored temple complex has 14 Gopuram. Gopuram means basically entrance temple, and which is typical of very bigger than the actual their own shrine. The height of this Gopuram ranges from 45 to 50 meters, and with southern Gopuram is tallest among all, which is around 51.9 meters, that is around 170 feet. And if you look at the main shrine is located here. This is your main shrine, and this main shrine was gilded with the gold by Nayaka ruler during 17th century, and that looks like this. It looks very beautiful, you know, this temple, and which basically is in which the Meenakshi is being worshipped, and the temple complex is quite huge, which spreads over around 14 acres, and which is the center of the old city of Madurai, because this city was built around the temple as being discussed by several researchers, and it consists of monuments inside number of concentric enclosures, each layer fortified with high masonry walls, and the courtyard is close to the square with each of side about 800 to 850 square. This is your courtyard, which is not shown here. I will maybe in the next slide I will be showing you. And it is also well known for the 1000 pillar halls, which is located in this temple. And if you look at this Madurai Meenakshi temple, as I told, it is having the pyramidical roof, and these are basically mandapam, or they call it mantapam. And what I was talking about, this is courtyards which is having water bodies. This is water bodies, and this is 1000 pillar hall, which is known as basically Choltris or the Chaudis, and it is quite famous for its architecture and also in size. So, the hall of 1000 pillars is one of the largest mandapam in any temple complex, which was built by Arihant Modulier, minister and commander of Biswanath Nayakar in year 1569. And of course, it is known as 1000 pillars, but people found out that it is around 985 pillars. And I am not aware like what happens to other 15 pillars. And it is looks to be quite gigantic pillar structures and quite huge, and each pillar is having several deities which will be there, but some of the pillars are quite different, like means some people claim that, of course I have not really checked it, but some of the pillars will be having different music instruments, and one says one can claim that it will make some sound if you touch some of the proper portions. And this soaring Gopuram is 150 feet high Gopuram, and its size is something 240 to 250 feet. It is quite a huge. And at the center of the mandapam is the ideal of Chirasava of Lord Nataraj, which is there, and then people are doing, and it is a very huge structures, and there is a lot of paintings which are being on the rooftop, which you can see is very quite colorful and interesting. Now question arises how they maintain those things and how they did it, and look at from the construction point of view, it is marvelous and mind boggling. So let us now take another example of Dravidian temple structure. As I had mentioned earlier, Brihadeshwar temple, which was built in around 1010 during the Cholas rule in Tanjavur, and there was no concrete, no steel frame, no anti-corrosion chemicals were used, and it was made entirely of granite stone, and granite is considered to be the strongest stone, and which is difficult to walk, and it stands proud even after 1000 years. It is not this temple, but other temples also living for more than 1000 years. And the temple complex was designed axial and symmetrical geometry, like this way. The way the Nagara style is being made, it is little bit different than the Dravidian style, and it is built in a rectangular covering of something 790 feet the east to west side and 400 feet north to south side. And the 5 main structures this temple is having. One is Sri Vimana, the sanctum. This is your Sri Vimana, and whose height is 208 feet, and Mukha Mandapa. Then next is the Mukha Mandapa. Mahamandapa is a great hall which is having a very lengthy one, and Ardha Mandapa, and this is, and then of course the Nandi Mandapam, this is your Nandi Mandapam. Ardha Mandapam, and this is your Mahamandapam. So this structure, if you look at it, is quite huge and then quite big one, and this is part of Nagar style. And in this temple, Lord Shiva is being worshipped in the form of linga, and its size is something 29 feet high, which is one of the largest monolith linga sculpture in India. If you look at it, it's quite a huge. A person has to stand on the upstairs and then do all the worshipping. And there is also a metal, there is a snake, 5-headed cobra snakes on the top of this lingam made of metal, and one can see that how it was being fabricated, constructed at that time. And beside this there is a deepam, which was a very huge one, which is shown here. So and this is of course the close-up, these are basically a view from the distance which is encompassing all the thing, and this is your 5-headed cobra snake and made of metal, and this is your Gopuram, which is quite intricate and a quite huge one, and this is the main entrance, and there will be also the another doors which is meant maybe for deities and also different regions will be. It is quite intricate, lot of sculptures are being on, and then it is quite difficult to make that kind of things. So if you look at the basic characteristics of the Dravidian temple, basically Garbhagriha will be there, which contains the main deity of the temple. It has a tower called Vimana over it. It is similar to the Nagara style, but the design of the Vimana is quite different. It is a pyramid kind of shape. And Mahamandapa or the Ardha Mandapa are in front of Garbhagriha, inner sanctum. Gopurams are the entrance towers, and which are quite elaborate in nature, and which is sometimes bigger than the main temple. And veranda next to inside walls of Pradakshina path, and tanks and wells which are either sacred or for bathing purposes were a part of it, and subsidiary deities and shrines dedicated to minor gods, most of which are aligned axially. This is the very important part of the Dravidian temples. And beside this, lot of greeneries are always there in the temple, and that is the eco-friendly environment were created. And beside this, lot of Ayurvedic plants are being also being placed in that in the temple for puja purposes, other purposes. Now we look at the Besar type is a hybrid style between the northern and southern style. It is a basically fusion of both Nagar and Dravidian style of temple architecture. And these temples were built in the Deccan under late Chalukya of Kalani and Hoysala, and in Besar style, height of temple towers gets reduced with the same number of tiers, which are accomplished by reducing the height of individual tiers. So let us look at a typical Besar style, and this is a Besar style temple, right. And in this case, if you look at these tiers are being, the numbers of tiers are being reduced, and then as a result the height of individual tiers being sorted out, and it looks different than your Nagara style, and it is a combination of both the Nagara and the Dravida style. So, prime temples of these styles is Chenna Kesava temple in Belur in Karnataka and Brahma temple in Pushkar, Rajasthan. There is several other examples like Bhakteshwar Solar temple, Tirukulam temple in Tamil Nadu, Lakshman temple, Parasnath temple, Vishwanath temple, and several of them, but I will be discussing only two of them. One is Keshava temple in Belur and Brahma temple in Pushkar of Rajasthan. So, let us look at this Chenna Keshav temple, which was built by Somanatha in Somanathpura in 1258 C. And this is temple is a Vaishnava Hindu temple on the banks of river Kaveri as Somanathpura, which is located around 38 km of Mysore city. And the ornate of temple is a model illustration of Hoysala architecture, which is quite distinct and different. As I told, this comes under the Besara style. And the main temple is on the high star-shaped platform with 3 symmetrical sanctum, which is not shown here, it will be inside, and the sanctums share common community hall and Sabha Mandapa with many pillars. And if you look at these things, these are basically made out of black stone, which is quite difficult to really work. And as I told that, but however, it could sustain the deep cuts and take a fine polish. You can look at these sculptures is quite intricate in nature, and it is quite difficult. One can think of how, one will wonder how they were really developing such a intricate sculptures in this hard stone like the black stone, right. So, let us look at the Beshara or the hybrid type, which is as I told, that is a Brahma temple, and Brahma temple in Pushkar city, and it is meant for basically Jagatpita Brahma, and it is dedicated to the Jagatpita Brahma, the Hindu creator god, which is known as Brahma. It is believed that this from Brahma, all the people have come, or the whole universe is created from him as per our belief system. When Brahma came down to earth, he named the place where flower, that is Pushpa, fell from the Brahma's hand, Kar. Therefore, that word is basically known as Pushkar. That place is known as Pushkar. Pushkar is often described in the scriptures as the only Brahma temple in the world. Most of the temples will be for other deities like Shiva, Vishnu, Devi, Durga and others, but this is the only temple what is being considered to be the unique. Although the present temple structure dates to the 14th century, temple is believed to be existing even 2000 years back, and temple is mainly built of marble and stone slabs. It has distinct red pinnacle, that is Sikhara. This is the temple, this is basically Sikhara. And a Hansa bird motif is there because that is the symbol related to the Brahma. And front view of Brahma temple in Pushkar is shown here, which looks to be quite different than the both Nagara style and then the Dravida style. It is believed that it was built by sage Vishwamitra after Brahma's yajna, and it is also believed that Brahma himself chose the location for his temple, and temple is built with stone slabs and blocks joined together with molten lead, and this is a new techniques which is being used. And the red Sikhara, spire of temple and symbol of Hamsa, a swan or a goose, the mount of Brahma, are distinct feature of this temple. Sikhara is about 700 feet, around 210 meter in height. It is quite a huge one, and this is the idea of Brahma is inside this temple which is being worshipped by the people. And Pushkara is said to have something 500 temples, 8 are large and rest are small. And of course, many of these temples were destroyed during Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb's rule between 1658 to 1707. So, let me conclude this lecture with a few remarks that the Hindu temple architecture is considered to be evolved during the Gupta period, as it is considered to be the golden period in Indian history. And later on, there is a lot of development of the temple, taking the clue from the temples built during the Gupta period. And temple thus became the center of learning for popularization of Indian culture and tradition. And during 600 to 750 CE, Hindu temple architecture were developed, which can be classified into two main categories. One is Nagara style in northern India, and the other is Dravidian style in southern part of our country. Beyond 750 CE, a fusion between Nagara and the Dravida styles were emerged in the Deccan region, which is known as Besar style, and which is a little shorter one, and it is also very compact one. Beside these three styles of temple architecture, several regional varieties were really came up, and because of they experimented with various methodologies. Some of them are like Kalinga architecture, Badami or Chalukya architecture, Hoysala architecture, and several others have come up, but unfortunately after 1200 1300 CE, this country was really not being ruled by the Hindu people, and they were being ruled by the other peoples, and later on Britishers came and they lost this culture of developing the temples, and as they were not having enough resources, and therefore we stopped it. But several kinds of materials, namely bricks, stone, terracotta, iron, other metals were used for the structure and for ornamentation, and even as I told, like gold has been used, so also the silver. And the sophistication of ornamentation, building techniques became more pronounced with the further maturity of different styles of architectures. And unfortunately, as I told earlier, that we lost the vigor of developing the new temple and also experimenting on it, because we are under the foreign rules. And but after independence, we have also not made any inroads in develop, although these temples are being utilized by the people and which have survived all the invasion, all the natural calamities, but still we need people to maintain those temples, and also that needs maintenance. And for that we need to teach and develop teach these technologies to even modern people, so that they can really carry out the maintenance work of these temples which are being utilized by people even today. So, therefore, it is important to include this design procedure for this ancient temple, so that we can really create engineers for the maintenance of these temples. Thank you very much.